And we are now live on episode 5, post COVID-19 Stocky Talk, with my former next door neighbor at work, Derek Bryant.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
How are you now? What's new? And tell everyone how you and I know each other. We kind of go back.
Yeah. So my name's Derek Bryant. Ross and I used to work together at a local advertising agency, Easy Marketing, for a time, a couple months there, right?
Oh, it
was not quite a year.
Not quite a year. Yeah, not quite a year.
So, we've worked together for a little while. You were actually the one that hired me, which was funny.
Yes. I was I was like, hey, boss, I need help. I think Derek's like the person to be able to help me. And he goes, like, sure. I said, yes, I think I'm sure.
Just funny, because I remember pestering the hell out of you guys at that time.
Yeah. No, persistence pays off. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm doing well though. So I've moved into a new house finally. I'm actually close to Lancaster. No longer making that hour drive from Oxford there and back. So that's nice. The ironic thing was the whole point of that move was that I didn't have a long drive to Lancaster every day for work. And then I closed, and then the next day was the stay from home, like the stay at home order.
You can't make this stuff up, folks.
So I had wanted so badly one day of driving in to just be like, my commute has gone from an hour to 7 minutes. I want to enjoy that 7 minute just drive in, right? And no.
Wasn't in the cards.
Good news is the other blessing was where I lived down in Oxford. The only internet I had was Frontier. And I think you remember me complaining about the just awful nightmare, which was dealing with Frontier internet.
It sounds like they were still using Windows 95 at their corporate headquarters.
I just speed test one day, and my internet was 2 megabytes per second.
Yep.
The
that's awful.
Is 25, and the global average is 40, and I was at 2.
See, the global average being at 40 makes me feel like the one thing China can do well is provide really good internet. My internet's at 25, and do I love it? It could be a lot faster, but I survive. Well, two makes me feel very, very sad.
2 was awful. It meant if I needed to do video work for a client, I needed to drive to the local Starbucks. Yeah. So thankfully, I've moved, and now I have Comcast.
Yeah.
I get like 200, and I am ecstatic.
Very good.
I'm so happy.
It is much better than 2. So there's that.
So that's what I've been up to. And now I'm stuck at home during Rota and baking a lot more. And
what are you baking?
All kinds of stuff. So the latest thing I baked was eclairs. That was my first time ever making choux pastry. They were good. They didn't look great. I will say that.
No.
They were not the prettiest eclair, but it was a banana filling with Nutella icing.
That's you win points for originality.
It was good.
I'll tell you what. I think you and I discussed this strategy of steaks and how to cook them in the most optimum way, and I learned a new love of mine, which was the reverse sear.
I've heard of this. I haven't looked into it a whole lot.
Because you told me about sous vide. Is that what you do with your steaks? Well, it's kind of similar, but not really. And I'll give you the quick rundown because I just have to be an evangelist for this type of steak. It's really you take your favorite piece of meat, you put it in a baking pan. I like to do 40 minutes at 225 degrees. Now 40 minutes at 200 degrees, really low, really slow.
Yeah.
And then you just put salt and pepper on that. You pat it down so it's dry. And you get this piece of meat that's like kind of allowed, you're okay maybe to eat it without getting sick, right? And then you sear it for 90 seconds on one side. You flip it. I do 2 tablespoons of butter, as much garlic and thyme or oregano as I can. Flip it again for 90 seconds. Now you're at like medium rare. Medium rare. Take it off and take a spoon and put that butter right on top.
Yeah.
That's how I've been doing steak. And you know what? I have to say I have to cheat on my grill. I can't do a grilled steak anymore. It's just not the same.
Yeah, I mean that sounds a lot like sous vide, the same basic principle where you're using some kind of heating method to get the inside close to where you want it to for cooked, and you just flash the outsides of it to get that nice sear.
And do you use cast iron?
Well, so for steaks, it depends. If I can't do it on the grill, I'll use just probably a cast iron. And yeah, actually that method you described, I didn't realize that was called the reverse sear. But yeah, that's definitely the way to go, is get it in the oven, get it close to temperature, and then flash it on the stovetop. So.
I will have to give props where they're due. My method is a marriage between Donnie Lavasser and Tim Katzman. Shout out to you guys if you're watching. You guys have inspired me to meet you in the middle. And Jesse Grider, you helped too, but I really didn't take your advice that much. So I'm just giving those 3 guys shout outs. Well, good. I'm glad to see that we're still trying new things on the culinary frontier.
Yeah.
So speaking of frontiers and history, let's talk a little bit about something we had in common, which is content marketing.
Yes.
Content marketing history.
I'm a huge content marketing advocate.
It is good. It is good to do. I like doing videos. That's why I feel like you and I can go on this and be like, this is a good idea. So, right. So yeah, man. We both kind of did content marketing. We both still do content marketing.
Yeah.
I was always really influenced by HubSpot. I worked at almost every company I've been at has done HubSpot in some way. And they had a few pretty famous case studies. Like one guy was called the Sales Lion. He called himself that, I think, self-proclaimed Sales Lion. And what he would do was just talk about pools. I mean, he had a blog that every so often, maybe it was every day, he would put out a blog post just describing the products that he sold and pools and how to take care of them and what use cases and things like that. And that inspired kind of a generation. So I've been to 2 HubSpot conferences to learn about content marketing. I think a lot's changed since the last one I went to was 2017. But that's kind of how I was brought up in content marketing.
Yeah. And
what about you?
So I got into content marketing through a mix of HubSpot and Digital Marketer with Brian Dice. Those 2 organizations really kind of were the introduction that I got to the idea that you create content, and especially with search engines now and the digital aspect of reaching out to somebody, it's really important that you provide that value first to the person, because you realize if you're trying to reach somebody at the point where they're trying to make a sale, they've already gone through a whole bunch of other steps without you. And so trying them to choose you for whatever product or service you're doing, you're already at a serious disadvantage.
It's like asking someone to marry you after a bunch of other people have taken them out on first dates.
It's funny you say that, because that's Ryan Dice's shtick about it. He said
is it?
His whole shtick is to say if you're not doing content marketing and you're asking a cold lead to do business with you up front, that's like asking somebody to marry you on the first date, right? There's no relationship, there's no trust, there's no nothing to make that kind of leap. So that's kind of where I got started, and then I went to conferences and I've read books and I've taken a whole bunch of the different certifications, and it's cool to think if you look back at the history of content marketing, it's actually been around for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, John Deere did it with their publication that they put out back in the early 1900s, which was just for farmers to tell them what to look out for, how to plant stuff, what are good fertilizers, other products that weren't actually related to what they sold. Mm-hmm. But it established themselves as, are you a farmer? Then John Deere is your customers. Mm-hmm. Or even back further, go to the Poor Man's Almanac, which was just Ben Franklin trying to promote his printing company. So it's a cool realization that content marketing is actually not new at all.
No.
The idea that you provide value first, build trust and a relationship, and then you can come back to this person and say, I'd like to do business with you. I have something to meet that need, has been around for hundreds of years.
Gary Vaynerchuk calls that phenomenon the jab, 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 right hook. I think you've read a book about that. I have that actually. Maybe that's probably my coffee table over there.
I haven't read that book, but that sounds
Yeah, I think it came out in 2014 or 15.
Okay. And you being an MMA person, I'm sure you relate to the idea of,
I bought it.
You don't open with the hook, right?
I mean, you got to have a setup, and if you want to land a shot. So
right.
Martial arts is something that I relate to, and I know that you've done martial arts and you can relate to it as well. But for those that maybe don't understand, a different thing is just giving first. It's like just the age-old adage of the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. I'm trying to be helpful to you, and if you find it helpful, maybe you'll reciprocate. Reciprocity rules. That's kind of content marketing. And Martin Luther King had a dream. He said that one day I want to judge businesses not by their advertising, but by the quality of their content marketing. Not quite. I misquoted that entirely, but that's what he meant, I think. I like to believe.
It sounds like something he'd be for. But what I think, and this will probably segue to our next bit, is it's not just about writing a content that you think is going to be valuable. Mm-hmm. You're not just going to go out and start writing a bunch of blogs on whatever it is you're trying to reach people about, right? It's trying to build a sequence, right? Everyone either says a funnel or a journey, and there's a whole bunch of different other terms and jargon and lexicon around it. But the basic principle is you're building a sequence to say, I've taken this person that knows absolutely nothing about this brand, this product, this service, or whatever, and you build some value and you build some trust and you build some authority. But then you have to have a step, like in your company, a known next step, right? So great, they've read this article. What are they supposed to do next, right?
Right. I mean, you're basically telling a story. On the next episode of this content piece, here's what you can expect, or here's what you should do is tune in and watch.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really, there's a book, whether it's by Seth Godin or Ryan Halliday, I can't remember which one, but it says all marketers are liars, and it crosses out liars and says all marketers are storytellers. Mm-hmm. And the point is saying that, telling a story is an art. It's not a science.
Yeah.
And that's what content marketing is. You're leading them down a path or a funnel or a journey.
Yeah, and if you really want to get an idea of how content marketing, and really any marketing, is supposed to be based around storytelling, you go look at old school copywriters, right? You didn't just write an ad. You wrote a story that explained both a hero, a problem that needed championing, tie it to an emotional feeling that everyone in that target audience understands, and then give the payoff so that they can get an idea of, I need this. I want this for myself or whatever it is, and I don't know how to get there. You answer that with a story so people can relate to it.
They say that in sales, people do business with those they like, know, and trust. Yeah. What's the vehicle of getting to know someone and getting to like someone and getting to trust someone? I think it might be content marketing. I'm not sure, but that's my vote.
One of the ways.
And maybe not the only way, but it's a helpful factor.
It's definitely one of the ones that I like. I remember when I first got out of college, one of the jobs I had was as a financial advisor. So
right.
I was selling life insurance and annuities kind of thing, right? And the company I worked for was old school in cold calls.
Right.
40 cold calls a day out of everybody. And it was brutal and excruciating, and I hated it.
So you didn't want to be a professional chatbot on the phone?
No, I didn't.
I kid.
And you know what's funny? At that time, I didn't know what content marketing was. I didn't know about customer values or anything like that. But even at that time, I kept trying to go back to my sales manager and saying, look, I need some way to reach these people before this, right? I need something to build value to say, look, I'm not just here trying to sell you something. I'm trying to help you build up your retirement, settle for your future, prepare, right? Do you know what's going to happen with your kid's education fund and how you're going to deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you know what's going to happen if something goes wrong and all that planning you've got set aside? And, I know these paychecks are coming in. If something happens to that, what's your contingency plan?
Right.
But there's no way to communicate with that to somebody over the phone real quick. Or even when you get into that first meeting with them, it's really hard to establish that because their guard is up.
Of course. Most of them are feeling the emotion of disturbance. You're disrupting whatever they were doing out of the blue.
I remember the feeling of being in meetings with people that I'd convinced somehow to get over the phone to have a meeting with me.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times I'd sit down with them and the feeling of tension with this person because they don't know who I am. They don't know my agenda. They don't know what I'm about. And they're assuming I'm there to sell them stuff. And I was.
Right. That was your job.
Right. So fast forward a few years when I start getting into content marketing and realizing that I'm not crazy.
Right. Exactly.
Right. This is actually
rapport with someone
to try and provide value. So,
well, I think one of the things that Chris DeMeo taught me at Easy Marketing is like talking about sales is not just like closing, but sales is helping.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if I can help you, I'll explain to you how I can help you because it's my duty as a patriot, a fellow citizen, as a
human being.
I want to be a good human being to the world. And if I can help you, I will do that. And if that's through business, great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it's through maybe pointing you in a different direction or educating you, even just hearing about what your pain points are, then I will do that. And then it doesn't always end up with a sale, but if you can end up treating somebody very well, that pays off in the long run. And I think that lesson's always stuck with me. Hopefully.
It's a good lesson. I mean, it sounds very altruistic and out there, but the idea of, if you serve one person very well, but they don't become a sale. Even now, with all the tracking and cookies and everything we have to tell us attribution and to get a better sense of what's working and where actually our marketing dollars are generating revenue that comes back to us, there's still a level we aren't able to track in that if somebody goes out and talks to a friend of theirs and it comes back in new business later, we can't always track that. But we know it works. We know it happens.
And it's the most powerful form of marketing is brand affinity. Having someone that likes you. I mean, that's That's more powerful than an ad. Yeah, we got 100 impressions. Or you had a buddy that told you, hey, Derek's a good guy. You should talk to him if you want to have kids that go to college.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Right. You can spend all kinds of money and time on building yourself as an authority on the internet, and that's great. You can get it to work. But there is nothing to substitute having a friend tell you you can trust this company.
And the neat thing about content marketing and digital and SEO is that that's the same as backlinks.
Mm-hmm.
Like you used to be able to get away with like comment spam on WordPress, like blogs. Oh wow, neat. And then like that would be the whole comment, and then like the username would be like, I don't know, best roofing services Lancaster, PA, and you click on it and it's like, a roofer, and that they'll get hundreds of thousands of these spam comments, and then Google realizes, well, first of all, you're talking about yourself, you're a robot, that's not a real friend of yours, and then now it's like, oh, you have a good friend who's in a similar area, similar business, has a good reputation themselves, and they say something nice about you, it's earnest, whether that's a shout out in a blog or hey, we're part of this association. That is a valuable backlink. Right. But they used to be weighted too eerily similar to one another.
It's funny you mention algorithm updates and everything. So as a testament to how useful and how content marketing is powerful, if it's done right, where you're focusing on just the customer and providing value to them, you kind of future-proof yourself from algorithm updates. Sure. And my to that is the last couple of updates that have come out, right? There was the January 2021, and then there was the one back in November, right? You remember those? And people freaked out. They were around latent semantic language, and then the other one was a core update. And the surprising number of clients that did not see a decrease, but actually jumped up.
Well, yeah.
When that algorithm came out.
It's because people look at what do you call it? Natural language processing, semantics, but really it's just making sure that natural language is better understood in context. It's more of a contextual language update. I was actually going to talk about this at a Lancaster SEO meetup, and then they closed it down because you can't actually meet in person. But if you're speaking someone's language, you should probably serve whoever's speaking in that same language. I mean, not just the generic. It almost feels like Google's like, hey, we're not narcs. We're not going to serve you robot language.
Right.
Trust us better. We're not, maybe narc's not the right word, but, I always think of Michael Scott from The Office being like, I'm hip, I'm cool. Like, who are you trying to fool?
Yeah.
Everyone's going to like Jim better at the cocktail party than you, Michael, because he actually speaks their language.
Right. And
if that makes sense.
Google is making strides towards serving natural language and answers to questions to people.
Yeah.
So as a tip to anybody watching this, if you're trying to figure out what should I be writing about or what should I be talking about, a really great place to start is answerthepublic.com. Because
that's a good point.
You just want to answer their question. That's the whole problem that a person has, right? They have a question and they don't know the answer to it. And they're going to Google or Bing or whoever because they just want to find out that they want
Siri, Alexa.
Siri. And that's a huge thing now.
Yeah.
You have to be able to rank now for
voice.
Voice.
It's huge. It's a game changer.
That is going to be huge. And how do you set up your content to respond to I don't think we'll have time to cover that today, but
well, that's a good speculation. One of the things, and real quick, just as an aside, I think content marketing today is just it's integrated with all of your social media, all of your website, your advertising. Like, if you don't employ content marketing best practices principles to everything, like, it's not just I used to think of content marketing as just, oh, I have a blog. Yeah, I'm doing content marketing. I have a blog. But like that is not. That's too. It's like taking a horse and being like, all right, this is the world.
It's funny you use the blinders thing because the analogy just made me think of Socrates about the cave.
Plato's allegory of the cave.
Plato, yes.
Yeah.
I've just made an ass of myself because I got.
Oh,
but anyway,
they're the same generation, close to the same age.
Not really, but whatever.
One taught the other.
But yeah, so the idea of like, because I run into this and it seems to be kind of the progression, right? Is the first progression is everyone goes, oh, content marketing is a blog. You go, no. And then the next progression is, oh, so I do my social marketing with a blog and I'll just send links to my blog from social media. And you go, part, but there's a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
And then it's to step out and say, oh, it's, as you said, it's my blog, it's my social media, it's my paid campaigns, it's my lead magnets, it's my emailing, it's my pages, it's just the regular pages on the website, it's all of that stuff. And then it's how do you make all that form the story?
Right. Exactly.
And it sounds so incredibly simple, and it's not terribly complicated, but it takes the time to set them all up.
Yeah, but it's incredibly important, and unless you give it that respect, you're gonna, make a mess. You can. It's easy to make a mess of it. Like if you have inconsistent messaging, it's like if you have a dog, right, and you're training the dog to sit, and you give the dog a treat when it sits, and you say, "Good boy," like, okay, cool, nice. And if next time, like a day later, you tell the dog to sit and it doesn't, you get angry and you kick it, it's not going to be more like, it's going to be like, who the hell are you?
Yeah. Well, and let's even go with a real world example, right? So there's a church that is trying to promote more registrations and attendances at the church for families. And they are tracking this and basing it off of families registering for the kids' services, right? So the kid goes in the Sunday school, right? So it's setting up more posts on social media that targets parents.
Sure.
Right? Just to generate awareness that this church is really going for parents and this church is for the parents.
Yeah.
So it's sharing blog posts from other websites that you say, these are good tips for parents. It's not our content, but that doesn't matter. It's for the parents, and this is a good resource, and we agree with it. Here it is, right? That's a way to build up your social audience so that when it comes time to say, oh, we're doing this event for families, you can talk to them and say, please click on this and sign up here. Move on to the next step. And the next step is seeing events that happen that are towards families, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we can retarget those people and say, great, you've come out to the family night, family bowling night. And you can retarget them on Facebook with a lookalike audience, or even just with a straight up retargeting audience on Facebook. And then even with email follow-up and say, look, why don't you come out on Sundays? We have a great Sunday school service for your kids, right? But it falls down if I send those people an email that says, that was a great time we had at the family service. Why don't you come out to Addicts Anonymous?
Let's have a beer.
Whoops.
Exactly.
There has to be a very clear path. And that's an extreme example.
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. What happens more often than not is nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Is you get someone partway through that funnel and you think, oh, great, we've got the person. There's so much more you need to do. Like, even if I get this person to sign up and go to Sunday school, great, they've made the main conversion point that we're looking to do. There's more on top of that. There's
keep them going to Sunday school.
Well, There's keeping going to Sunday school, right? There's then signing up for a youth group, perhaps. There's other areas of engagement that we want to try and move these. I shouldn't say push. So it's not.
Lead, shepherd.
Shepherding. I like shepherding, actually.
I'm gonna request that Ethan Shear and Nick McMichael, two of my friends from E-Town College, they have to listen to you talk about marketing. They have to do it because they're navigating through the coronavirus on doing their own worship, on YouTube, on social media. They're doing digital marketing now for their job, like they're pastors.
Yeah,
two good friends of mine.
Yeah, if they want to reach out to me, that'd be great because I'm doing that for my church right now.
Yeah.
There was the big. Thankfully, we were lucky enough that we were doing live stream before the coronavirus became this pandemic and the stay-at-home order. So we already had that established, and we were pretty safe on that front. But since then, it's been pivoting to realize. I mean, everything had to go digital, right? Mm-hmm. There had to be all those customer journeys had to be in place to keep everything running.
Right.
So it's moving all that through, and then at the end of that, and this goes back to what you were talking about with the referrals to people being so critical. It's what's the end of the path to making them an advocate, right? Mm-hmm. How are you encouraging them to share their wonderful time and experience that they've gotten from you to tell their friends and others on social media or email or just by word of mouth?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, that's the age-old. I mean, that problem's never going away. It's always been there. It's always going to be there. And how we're handling it now is just kind of an omni-channel messaging approach. And I do it through digital. I mean, you can still do it through traditional and through TV, radio, newspaper, all that if you want. I find that there's a huge cost prohibition to do traditional. In my opinion, one man's opinion, not reflecting any employer, past, present, or future. I think digital is the way to go because you can infinitely scale it. You can watch a YouTube video. A YouTube video is great if you're doing instructional because you can pause it, rewind it, stop it. It's free. And you can do it whenever the hell you want.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, and to me, the bigger and more important aspect that makes digital so much more, I don't want to say impactful, but a wiser spend of choice is the accountability, right? Digital has given us the ability to be much more transparent to people about what is the return that can be expected from marketing.
Yeah, UTM codes are great. It's like
TV or a radio ad, and you go, "Well, we think it'll be this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll get this money back."
Well, we're a magazine. We're going to be in this doctor's office. This doctor's office, we think, has 1,000 people walk through it a day.
Right.
Yeah, but they're worried about being sick and taking care of their kids. They're not necessarily fully engaged in your page 36, quarter page ad. They don't really give a shit about that. They're going to remember, oh, my kid doesn't have cancer. Hooray.
Right.
Things like that.
And even if it does work, you don't know how many.
No, there's no way to know.
There are some, but
there's no. It's far less accurate than doing a UTM tracking from one ad to one website.
Right, and that is something Google has been working on with omni-channel attributions and different attribution models to be able to say, was it this interaction on the page? Was it first? Was it multiple? Was it a last interaction that got a conversion?
Google Tag Manager in combination with Google Data Studio, it's like there's almost no excuse for having great reports anymore.
Yes.
There's really not.
That, I guess, would be my second public service announcement to people. If you don't have Google Tag Manager on your website, learn it and get it on there, because that ability to tell you what's actually happening on your website is all the important data you need. It's vital.
I mean, what's a SMART goal? Something that's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
Yep.
And you don't have any goals if you don't have Google Analytics for your website.
Right.
So.
And you can get some, you can get some of those with just the regular goals in Google Analytics, right? With destinations and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But Tag Manager means you're able to track everything from like who clicked on this page as a goal, or did somebody click on this page because they came from over here versus over here?
Oh yeah, the event tracking.
It's so powerful to be able to tell you what's working or what's or even I've had, and these are almost more fun to me. What are the unintentional workings, right? The ones where you go, that wasn't I didn't mean for that to happen, but that's working. Why is that working?
And then you can throw in things like heat mapping, which even kind of give people's attention to places, and you can throw in A/B testing. But like, if you do all of those things, you just get more and more control. Could you imagine the heat mapping? Like, oh, this is a magazine publication. We noticed that this is where people's eyes tend to go. Like, that's not like you can. It's a piece of paper. Like, you know, I don't know. That's why I love the internet, because you can do that much detail. So where do you think that's things we can do today? We've been doing those things. We can do those things. I think that we're talking about coronavirus a little bit, and hopefully someday we can have a beer at a pub in person and look back and say, remember that time we did a video and we put it on YouTube and we were over the computer? But like, that's today. I mean, what do you? We talked about the Rona in respect to churches, but content marketing in the age of Corona, there is probably never been a more important time to do it. I've seen so many professional athletes join TikTok, with social media platform that used to be Musical.ly. I've seen so many more people just put intentional, thought out Facebook posts that really could have been blog posts, but they were a Facebook post, and I applaud them. Making their first meme in forever. And it's just kind of a sign of the times that people that aren't content marketers are doing content marketing because they're spending more time on their devices. And I mean, we've been seeing the trend. I think it's continuing in that direction. But I want to hear your take on what this means for digital marketing, especially for small business, and what the Rona really implies. I want to hear your take on that.
I think it's really shined a light on how important providing useful, relevant, thought-provoking, maybe sometimes even just escapist type of content, right? If you think about all the content that you've been enjoying and reading on any platform right now, that's just been funny for the sake of, I need to look at something different, and that's just
Tiger King memes. It's my guilty pleasure.
I have a confession to make.
Oh, God.
I have not watched Tiger King yet. And at this point, I'm afraid.
I mean, it's kind of like Game of Thrones. Like, people are I mean, it's not, but it's like, oh, I've never watched Game of Thrones.
Right.
It's like a badge. It's like,
right.
Tiger King became so popular.
At this point, now I'm afraid to watch it, because I'm going to watch it and I'm going to react.
Oh, dude.
And I'm going to try and engage, and people are going to be like, dude, where were you? That was like 2-3 weeks ago.
But you remember Florida Man, right? Like, Florida Man. Like, that's, yeah, you're familiar with Florida Man. Did you used to live in Florida?
Huh?
Did you used to live in Florida?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. I was born in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is Oklahoma Man. And it's kind of like Florida Man's cousin.
Yeah. It's weirder that I feel like I've pieced together a good bit about, like, what is the story of that show.
Yeah.
From the internet and memes and everything. But to get them back to content, for content marketing, it's shined on how important it is, because we've all now been reduced to basically the only way for us to be a society and engage with each other is through content. Yeah. So if you're a business, the only chance you have to stay relevant is through content marketing right now. It's the only chance you have, right? So going forward, it'll come back to it a little bit, but I think we've given a chunk of, I don't want to say time or just a good bit of our lives have now gone digital. That I will get some of it will go back, right?
Right.
But I'll bet you a chunk of it sticks.
And some of the emotions I think with going digital are just like health, safety, community-minded conscientiousness. Like we're being basically conditioned to equate going digital with like recycling almost. I mean, we're helping the planet. That's how we're literally fighting coronavirus by digital marketing. Well, digital entertainment.
I think I
maybe hyperbole, but
a little bit.
But emotionally,
as an enthusiast and an enjoyer of being outside and in nature and engaging with that kind of stuff, there's always going to be space for that. And I know you are too.
Oh, I miss it,
but,
man.
I know. I know. I miss it terribly. But there's now I think a precedent maybe is what I'm trying to get at. A precedent set that we now can do this and survive it, both emotionally, societally, and economically. Well, the economy can be debated, but we know we can now survive doing this. So I'll be interested to watch how in the future we respond when other outbreaks happen. How quickly we're willing to say, "Oh, we have a protocol for this, and for public health and safety, we're going to go into some stricter protocols." I don't know if that's going to happen. That's wild speculation, but I will be interested.
I know it's not wild speculation. I think it's just like, hey, well, we've done it once. It makes sense we do something similar again.
Right.
So.
Well, we'll see. And I'll be interested to see what kind of impact this has on just normal content marketing and normal digital marketing.
Even normal economy, like, right? So even after this work from home order is done, one of the positives is that all these companies that said you must be at work, okay, well, now that the Rona happened, we're actually not at work and we're actually fine and we're happier. You can't micromanage the shit out of me at home.
One of the
I don't know. Maybe we'll be more open-minded.
One of the memes I've been enjoying has been the meme that's talking about, somebody said, once this is over, it's going to be really hard to get used to the idea of having to put pants and bras back on to go to work.
I mean,
and I don't know about you, but I relate to that feeling of it's I don't have to get dressed up to go to work, and that's nice.
It's toxic for me, man. I don't need that much freedom. I like having a little bit of structure because I can just run away with it. It's like, oh, how did 1 o'clock happen? Like, where did 1 o'clock come from? Because I feel like 1 o'clock is like now the new 9 a.m. and it needs to not be that way. I need to see more daylight because how often. I mean, I was pretty hard affected by the Rona. Being in real estate and being a consultant for small business, digital marketing consultant for small business, it's like not very essential. Not much is happening, and I already work from home, and now I don't have the option to get out. I liked having the option of being able, like you said earlier, go down to the Starbucks. I go to Prince Street Cafe or Baker's Table. Those aren't really having me drink coffee there right now. But I had go into the brokerage office for real estate, or go to my business partner's office. I had a lot of options, and now I'm like, these pajamas, they're looking nice. And
I wonder what is the societal norm now on how many days you can wear your pajamas in a row.
Yeah, it's 3.
Is it 3?
My guess is 3. If I had to guess.
I'd be interested to read in your comments after this what people think. Or if you're gonna put this on Facebook, do a poll.
Here's a call to action. I
Yeah,
think for me, when I edit this video, I can put a poll in at a certain time. So I
yeah,
know at 45 minutes, my poll is 3 options: 1 day, 2 to 3, 3 or more. How long can you stay in your same pajamas?
yeah.
And I think that it's worth also mentioning, if we're going to make this content marketing, which we are, that's that's one of our goals.
We're talking about.
We're going to like, subscribe, follow,
Yep.
comment, share, do all the things, interact with this content, share it. You know, talk to Derek about business and marketing, and if you're a small business that falls in his niche, he can help you. Talk to me.
Right.
Those are the call outs. Maybe they can
Yeah.
be said stronger, but if they're here at 45 minutes, they're interested.
Well, and I have some templates and worksheets that people can use, that if they want to just kind of work through it themselves once or twice and try and get an idea on how they could implement this for their own business, I would be happy to share that and send that over.
Very cool. Hey, Derek, where can people find you? So they want to find you online. They made it this far. They're like, this MF is spitting. I'm going to say I've been seeing. How can they find you? How can they follow you? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So they can find me on my website, which is myvantagemarketing.com. They can go to there and they can sign up for a time to consult with me if that's what they'd like to do. Follow me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm on there, and as always, an option is they can just email me, Derek@myvantagemarketing.com, for any questions they have.
And you're Derek Bryant on Facebook and Derek Bryant on LinkedIn, correct?
Yep, or My Vantage Marketing on those channels as well.
Cool. All right, man. Well, hey, everyone that's listening, thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully you had some laughs. If you're new to marketing, hopefully you learned a thing or two about our conversation. If you're not new to marketing, hopefully you can give us some feedback and join in the conversation. I always like hearing other people's points of view.
I was going to say, I would love to hear some rebuttals. If anybody thinks Ross and I are just talking a bunch of shit and we're a bunch of idiots.
Content marketing is so 2017. If I hear that, I mean, let's talk. I could use a good argument.
I love a good debate.
Yeah.
I promise I'll be civil.
I'll be much more civil than our pseudo left-right paradigm during the pandemic. Come on. That's one thing I want to say. Everyone, oh, no, I lied. I always ask every guest if they had one piece of advice to give our viewers about life, the world at large, everything, big picture piece of advice. You get one of those pieces of advice. What advice would you give?
Oh, good Lord. It's a big lofty ask you got there.
It's a big old call to action that you have to give people.
Well, if it's to life, right? Not just to marketing or anything, although it applies, right? So, okay. Keep learning and don't assume you know what you know, right? One of the best ways I have tried to keep myself humble is to just keep learning and assume that whatever I do know now could always end up being wrong.
That's really good. I think the key word there is humble progress. Well, you didn't say progress, but that's what you mean. I can be wrong. I've been wrong. I know it's a shock to some people.
You can ask my wife. I've been wrong plenty of times.
I learned something.
That is, Ross, is one of my favorite phrases.
I learned something.
I learned something.
Yep. And if you can say that every day, that makes for a pretty damn good life.
Yeah.
It's just a culmination of continuing to learn something.
Yeah. And it keeps you open-minded about stuff.
Everyone can learn something. That's a universal truth.
And I'll challenge you better. Everybody can learn something from anybody.
Literally anybody. It might not be the lesson they were hoping for or asking for, but it's still a lesson.
You never know.
You never know.
So
cool. Hey, man.
Fun. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate your time, buddy. It was good catching up with you over the computer. Say hi to Booker and Bree for me. Hope you're enjoying the new house. Hope everyone's happy and healthy. And to everyone listening on Stocky Talk, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, man.
Yeah, dude. Take care.
Take care.